Your Honor, I am deeply saddened by this tragedy that has affected so many lives. I found out things before and during trial about a man, Fotis Dulos. I thought I knew and loved. I deeply regret ever being in a relationship with Fotis Dulos and bringing my daughter, my family, and myself into our lives, into his life. I am a person of profound faith, and I have been praying and will continue to pray for those who suffered and still suffer. I am thankful to my whole family and my dear friends who have stood by me and support me.
New Canaan, Connecticut, an idyllic town where the streets are clean, the homes are grand, and danger feels like a distant rumor. But on the morning of May 24th, 2019, something disrupted that illusion. A black Chevy Suburban sat parked on Lapham Road just outside Waveney Park. Its doors were locked. The engine was running. The driver, a 50-year-old mother of 5 named Jennifer Dulos, was gone. That same morning, her friends grew concerned. She hadn't shown up for appointments. She wasn't answering texts. She wasn't the type to vanish, especially not without her children. When police arrived at her New Canaan rental home, they found no sign of Jennifer. But the garage told a darker story. Blood, and a lot of it, smeared on the floor, spattered on the walls. Signs of a struggle and an attempt to clean it all up, and yet there was no body. Her estranged husband, Fotis Dulos, didn't seem frantic. He wasn't organizing search parties. He wasn't calling hospitals. He wasn't crying. Instead, he offered calm, calculated statements and stuck to his story. Jennifer had simply disappeared, and he had nothing to do with it. But as investigators dug deeper, they uncovered something else. Trash bags, surveillance footage, blood evidence, and a woman named Michelle Troconis, the other woman, standing right beside him. Still, without a body, could anyone be charged with murder? If you're captivated by true crime stories and want to stay updated on the darkest cases, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We release in-depth crime documentaries just like this one, uncovering the chilling details behind real-life mysteries. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button now. Before the headlines, before the search teams, the trials, the unanswered questions, there was Jennifer Farber. She was born and raised in New York City, the daughter of Hilliard Farber, a Wall Street banker who built a fortune and gave generously to the arts. Jennifer grew up surrounded by culture, privilege, and expectations, but she was never one to chase the spotlight. She was quiet, thoughtful, a girl who lived more in books than in the buzz of the city around her. Jennifer went on to attend Brown University, one of the Ivy League's most prestigious schools. There, she developed a deeper passion for writing, for stories, for character, for emotion. She later earned a master's degree in writing from NYU, setting her sights on a literary career. Those who knew her described her as deeply empathetic, someone who truly listened. She was artistic, gentle, and fiercely devoted to her friends and family. She didn't care much for wealth or status. She wanted love, a home, children, and during her time at Brown, she met someone who looked like he could provide all of that. His name was Fotis Dulos. Jennifer met Fotis at Brown University. Back then, he was just another name on campus. Athletic, well-spoken, with a European flair that made him stand out in a crowd. They were friendly, but nothing more. Jennifer went on with her life, he went on with his, and for a while their paths diverged. But years later, they crossed again, and this time, Fotis was no longer just the charming Ivy League student. He was a man with a resume, a business, and a vision. Fotis Dulos had been born and raised in Athens, Greece, in a world that prized appearance, discipline, and legacy. From an early age, he was drawn to skiing, not just as a sport, but as a lifestyle. He competed with intensity and carried that same drive into everything he did. When he moved to the United States, it was to make something of himself. Brown University gave him his start, but Columbia Business School helped him build the brand. He spoke 5 languages, presented like a CEO, and believed deeply in image. Always. He married a woman named Hillary Aldama, someone who matched his social ambition. But the marriage didn't last. Not even close. It was brief, transactional, and by all accounts, hollow. By the time that relationship collapsed, Fotis had already reconnected with Jennifer. Their romance began quickly. Jennifer, the thoughtful writer and gentle soul, may have seen something more in him. Potential, ambition, stability. Fotis, on the other hand, may have seen her as a perfect partner on paper, educated, elegant, and the daughter of a very wealthy man. Whatever the truth, they married in the early 2000s. After their wedding, Jennifer and Fotis settled into a sprawling home in Farmington, Connecticut. It was the kind of place that looked like it belonged in a magazine. A custom-built estate with manicured lawns, high-end finishes, and just enough European charm to reflect Fotis's personal taste. While they had some initial difficulty in starting a family, in just a few years they had 5 children, 2 sets of twins and a daughter. Jennifer became a full-time mother, fully devoted to her children's well-being. She drove them to school, helped with homework, read bedtime stories. She created routines, safety, stability. Fotis focused on his business, building multi-million-dollar homes through his company, the Four Group. When he wasn't working, he was training, ski trips to Aspen, triathlons in the summer, long hours at the gym. For Fotis, physical performance and personal image were just as important as business success. Together, they appeared to have it all: private schools, nannies, European vacations, a large, loving family in a beautiful home. To outsiders, it was the picture of upper-class domestic bliss. But inside that house, the cracks had already started to form. Fotis was demanding, rigid, unyielding. He wanted Jennifer and the children to be equally as competitive as he was in skiing, which Jennifer had picked up after they connected, and the children later joined, thereby almost running them to the ground. He expected Jennifer to cater to his world, not the other way around. He made decisions without her input, and over time that imbalance grew harder to ignore. Also, because of the relocation, Jennifer constantly felt lonely, as all she had for company was the children and the occasional wife of Fotis' friends. Jennifer, once confident and secure, began to shrink into the background. She put on a brave face, but her journal entries would later reveal the truth. Something in their home didn't feel safe. Something in their marriage was slipping away. For years, Jennifer kept the peace. She focused on the children, the home, the routines that made life feel normal. But beneath the surface, she had started to sense a shift, one she couldn't ignore. Fotis was distant, colder, distracted. And then came Michelle Troconis. Jennifer suspected the affair long before Fotis admitted anything. Michelle was glamorous, athletic, and part of the same ski circles Fotis belonged to. They trained together, traveled together, and while Fotis insisted it was nothing, he didn't hide it for long. He began bringing Michelle around openly, even introducing her to mutual friends, blurring lines that Jennifer thought were still sacred. It wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation, and as Jennifer looked deeper, the lies only multiplied. She discovered Fotis had been taking out loans behind her back, misusing family funds, even taking a huge loan from her father, mixing personal and business accounts in ways that didn't make sense or follow the law. And through it all, he showed no remorse, only entitlement. By 2017, Jennifer, having just lost her father, had had enough. But the final straw came when Fotis purchased a gun, which they had previously agreed not to allow into the house since they had young children in the house. She packed up the children and moved out of the Farmington mansion. They settled into a rental home in New Canaan, quieter, smaller, safer. Immediately after, she filed for divorce. But this wasn't going to be a clean break. Not with Fotis. In court filings, Jennifer documented her fears in stark detail. She described his volatile behavior, his threats, his manipulations. She wrote that she was afraid for her life and for her children's safety. She pleaded with the court to protect them, and still, the system gave Fotis room to maneuver. Jennifer had escaped the house, but she had not escaped the danger. The divorce wasn't just a separation, it was a war, and the battlefield was their 5 children. Jennifer was granted full custody. Fotis, stripped of unsupervised access, was allowed only monitored visits. For most parents, that would have been painful. For Fotis, it was unbearable. He didn't just lose time with his kids, he lost control. And for a man like Fotis Dulos, control was everything. In his world, he was the one who gave orders, who decided outcomes. Not the court, not Jennifer, not anyone. The idea that a judge could restrict his access to his own children? That a woman, his wife, could move out, challenge him in court, and win? It bruised his ego in a way he couldn't tolerate. So he pushed back, hard. He defied court orders, brought Michelle Troconis around the kids even when he wasn't supposed to. He treated the custody agreement as a nuisance, something beneath him, not legally binding, just inconvenient. To Fotis, this wasn't about parenting. It was about power, about pride, and with every restriction, every supervised visit, he saw himself slipping further from the image he had crafted. The successful father, the head of the perfect family, the man in control. Jennifer, meanwhile, was growing more and more concerned. She kept detailed records of every violation. Every time Fotis crossed a line, every veiled threat, every moment that made her uneasy. She saved emails, she logged phone calls, she wrote in her journal daily, and in one entry her fear was raw and unfiltered. I am afraid he will harm me. She wasn't afraid of a messy divorce. She wasn't afraid of losing a court case. She was afraid of Fotis, of what he might do when he realized he was losing control, not just of the narrative, but of his life. Because for a man like Fotis Dulos, ego wasn't just part of his identity, it was his identity. And once that began to fracture, there was no telling how far he'd go to put the pieces back together. May 24th, 2019, a day that began like any other. Jennifer Dulos, a devoted mother of 5, started her morning routine. She prepared breakfast, ensured her children were ready, and drove them to New Canaan Country School. The drop-off was uneventful. By 8:05 a.m., Jennifer returned to her home on Wells Lane. A neighbor's security camera captured her pulling into the driveway. The garage door closed behind her, and then she was gone. Lauren Almeida, the family's nanny since 2012, resumed work that day like every other day, letting herself in without suspecting anything. As the day unfolded, subtle concerns began to surface. Jennifer had scheduled 2 doctor's appointments in New York City, one at 11 a.m., another at 1 p.m. She missed both. Calls and texts went unanswered. By afternoon, the concern escalated to panic. The nanny picked up 4 of the Dulos children from school, planning to meet Jennifer in Manhattan that afternoon. When Jennifer failed to respond to multiple messages, Lauren's unease grew. For those who knew Jennifer, this was alarming. She was punctual, reliable, unreachable. That was out of character. My stomach just sank, she later testified. She never not answered her phone. Taking initiative, Lauren went to one of Jennifer's scheduled doctor's offices, hoping to find her there. But Jennifer hadn't shown up. Confusion turned to dread. With the children in tow and no word from Jennifer, Lauren began reaching out to friends, family, anyone who might have heard from her. She even contacted hospitals, grasping for answers. But there were none. By 7 p.m., the weight of the situation was undeniable. Lauren contacted the New Canaan Police Department. She reported Jennifer missing, emphasizing the ongoing contentious divorce and custody battle with her estranged husband, Fotis Dulos. She also conveyed a chilling detail. Fotis had recently purchased a gun, heightening fears for Jennifer's safety. Responding swiftly, officers arrived at Jennifer's residence for a welfare check. The scene they encountered was unsettling. In the garage, they discovered blood spatter on the floor, the walls, even the exterior of Jennifer's Range Rover, signs of a violent struggle. Inside the house, more anomalies. An attempt had been made to clean up the blood on the sink, which was why the nanny failed to notice it. Jennifer's purse was there, but her Chevrolet Suburban was missing. Surveillance footage would later reveal that vehicle leaving the home at 10:25 a.m., but it wasn't Jennifer behind the wheel. The evidence was mounting. Something terrible had happened, and the person at the center of Jennifer's world, her estranged husband, Fotis Dulos, was about to come under intense scrutiny. As investigators processed the blood-soaked garage, they knew they were likely dealing with a homicide. Jennifer Dulos didn't just disappear, she had been attacked, and someone had gone to great lengths to clean it up. But whoever did it left a trail. Police began piecing together surveillance footage, cell phone data, and witness accounts. The breakthrough came from Hartford. Just hours after Jennifer vanished, Fotis Dulos and Michelle Troconis were spotted on video, driving a pickup truck into the city. Over the course of that evening, cameras captured them stopping at more than 30 different trash bins across a 4-mile stretch. Fotis was seen getting out of the truck, throwing away black garbage bags. Michelle sat in the passenger seat watching. When detectives retraced the route and searched those bins, what they found was damning. Inside the bags were zip ties, gloves, sponges, clothing, and a vintage schoolgirl outfit that Jennifer's nanny would later confirm belonged to one of the Dulos children. Every item was stained with blood, Jennifer's blood. DNA tests confirmed it, along with Fotis' DNA on the handles of the trash bags themselves. It was a forensic roadmap, and it told a horrifying story. Police believe Jennifer was ambushed in her garage, violently attacked. Then her body, lifeless or incapacitated, was loaded into her own SUV. That vehicle was later found abandoned near Waveney Park, its interior thoroughly cleaned, but not clean enough. Traces of blood remained. Fotis Dulos was brought in for questioning. He denied everything, claimed Jennifer was trying to frame him. He called it all a setup. A search warrant was gotten to search his home. No much evidence was found except an alibi script supposedly written by Michelle meant to confuse investigators. But the facts didn't lie, and the evidence, piece by bloody piece, was stacking higher by the day. The investigation into Jennifer Dulos' disappearance was intensifying. Evidence was mounting, and soon the authorities were ready to act. On June 1, 2019, Fotis Dulos and his girlfriend Michelle Troconis were arrested at a hotel in Avon, Connecticut. The charges: tampering with evidence and hindering prosecution. Surveillance footage had captured them disposing of items stained with Jennifer's blood. Both pleaded not guilty. Fotis was released on a $500,000 bond, Michelle on a $100,000 bond. But the legal noose was tightening. On September 4, 2019, Fotis was arrested again. Additional charges of hindering prosecution and tampering with evidence were filed. The walls were closing in. Then on January 7, 2020, the case took a grave turn. Fotis Dulos was arrested at his Farmington home. The charges: capital murder, murder, and kidnapping in connection with Jennifer's disappearance. Michelle Troconis faced charges of conspiracy to commit murder. Fotis' attorney, Kent Mawhinney, was also arrested on conspiracy charges. The stakes had never been higher. Fotis maintained his innocence. He posted a $6 million bond, secured by assets and the promise of friends. Released with a GPS monitor, he was confined to his home. But the pressure was relentless. The media scrutiny, the impending trial, the weight of the charges. It was all too much. On January 28, 2020, Fotis was due in court for an emergency bond hearing. He failed to appear. Concerned, authorities conducted a welfare check at his Jefferson Crossing residence. There, in the garage, they found him unresponsive. He had attempted suicide by carbon monoxide poisoning, connecting a vacuum hose from his SUV's exhaust to the cabin. First responders managed to revive a faint pulse. He was transported to Yukon Health Center, then airlifted to Jacobi Medical Center in the Bronx for hyperbaric oxygen therapy, but the damage was irreversible. On January 3, 2020, Fotis Dulos was pronounced dead. He was 52. In the car, a suicide note was discovered. In it, he proclaimed his innocence and that of those accused alongside him. "I refused to spend even an hour more in jail for something I had nothing to do with," he wrote. He insisted Michelle Troconis and Kent Mawhinney, his lawyer, were also innocent. But the note left more questions than answers. Jennifer's body remained missing. The case was far from over, and the search for justice continued. In the years following Jennifer Dulos' disappearance, one name remained closely tied to the case: Michelle Troconis, the woman Fotis had flaunted during his marriage, the woman seen on surveillance video helping him discard bags of evidence, the woman who for years insisted she had nothing to hide. From the beginning, Michelle claimed she was manipulated, that Fotis deceived her, that she didn't know what she was helping him cover up, but prosecutors didn't see a victim, they saw a partner. Michelle Troconis was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, tampering with physical evidence, and hindering prosecution. She pleaded not guilty on all counts, but in court, the details were impossible to ignore. She had helped Fotis write a bogus alibi script, a timeline meant to confuse investigators. She was with him as he tossed blood-stained evidence into trash bins. She lied to police about where she had been and what she had seen. Her defense team painted her as a woman in love, manipulated, used, but prosecutors had a different view. They argued she wasn't a pawn, she was an accomplice, fully aware of what had happened to Jennifer and actively helping to hide it. In March 2024, nearly 5 years after Jennifer vanished, the jury delivered its verdict: guilty on all major charges. Michelle Troconis was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, evidence tampering, and hindering prosecution. In May 2024, she was sentenced to 14.5 years in prison. The courtroom was somber. Jennifer's loved ones sat quietly, no celebration, no applause, just a sense of something long overdue. Justice. Not complete, but undeniable. And still, Jennifer's body had never been found. In 2023, Jennifer Dulos was declared legally dead. Her 5 children are now being raised by her mother, Gloria Farber. Her case sparked national conversations about domestic violence and family court failures. Advocates continue to push for stronger protections for women in high-conflict custody battles. Jennifer had warned the court. She tried to warn them, a close friend said, and though her body was never found, he took her life, but not her voice. And if you're fascinated by true crime, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon to never miss an upload. We have more gripping stories coming soon, shedding light on cases that deserve to be told. Stay safe, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.